Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Motorgraph World channel. My name's Mari. Today we're going to do a comparison of two completely useless convertibles, the SL63 AMG from Mercedes and the Porsche 911 Carrera GTS. They're two useless convertibles, however, there is a romantic factor. So let's see which one is even better than the two. But first, it's been raining and we were driving over and there's a lot of dirt on the car, so please do understand and bear with us. Now, these two designs are worlds apart and it's very difficult to compare apples to apples. One big change that has been applied on the new AMG lines, including the SL, is this emblem. And now they say that the new AMG lines will have this new logo or the emblem to depict that it is in fact an AMG. As I was an AMG driver before I sold my Black G over, I do like the aggressiveness of the AMG lines compared to the generic Mercedes designs. And this one also, the grille as well as the face that has the sensors in it, the eyes also all have that presence on the road. The front nose part of the SL63 is very long, so you do have to bear in mind when you're driving on the road because it is in fact a very long nose. For the 911 Carrera GTS, it's a very classic design. This is what I do like about the Porsche designs. They don't do drastic changes. They do little changes that actually add to the overall design aspect. My personal liking for the Porsche 911 is the lights, the LED matrix system that you have with the 4 distinct LEDs on the lights. And I personally like the nose part better than the SL63. Of course, the SL has a bit of a presence in that grille. However, I like the classic nose of the 911 Carrera. As you could see from the front faces, they were completely different. And you can see that the side profiles are completely different as well. That actually adds to the drive of the car as well as the layout of the car. So let's take a look one by one. There's been a lot of changes from the side profile as well as the top part. The previous model was a hard top. It has now changed to a soft top. It's become much more streamlined. It's very, very clean. You have so much going on in the front and back that if you put too much emphasis on the side too, it becomes way too much. It's streamlined, it's clean, and it looks elongated, which I think is very important for a sports car. They're not square tires. In the front, it's 275/35 21-inch wheels, and at the back, 305/30 21-inch as well. So you have that difference and you have the dynamics in the wheels and the tires. Now let's take a look at the profile of the 911 Carrera GTS. Compared to the SL63, you actually see that it's much more volume and a lot more lines and curvatures on the 911 Carrera GTS. One thing that I really do like about this car is the wheels. And now these are center lock exchangeable wheels. You can see them a lot in racing cars, especially in Formula One. You know how they make the pit stops, they actually go in, do the screws, and then they come out in just a couple of 0 point something seconds. It's actually quite exclusive to some of the higher end premium models, which is one of the reasons why I like this model. Which do you prefer? I just love the backside of the Carrera. I love this kind of grille shape at the back, as well as the overall fly line, how it comes down to the logo and how it actually just ends up. I just think that this is one of the most beautiful cars and one of the most beautiful sports cars. I mean, the SL63, the backside is also very sleek and it has a very small bottom, very befitting for a sports car as well. And you don't see anything quite like it. They're very different, so it's now comes down to a matter of preference. The exhaust pipes for the 911 Carrera GTS, you have one on each side, whereas for the SL63 AMG, you have 2 pipes on both sides. And now that is the sound of a 911 Carrera GTS. Quite raw, but you actually sound that there is a little filter in between. And you also hear it roar as well. And now the SL63, a deeper, a lower sound. See that? That is what I fell in love with when I first bought my AMG. You have that growl, and it's like a lion ready to roar. And the wing of the 911 opens up this way. It's a wider wing for better aerodynamics when you're out on the road. And the SL63 also opens up its wing when on the road. Smaller, in fact, however, a little bit sleeker. And now we'll see both of them open up. Maybe the Carrera was a little bit faster, but I personally think that they both were quite slow in opening up, so that's not much of a difference. Tell us what you think about the open silhouette of both of the cars. Which is more of your preference? Apart from the color, just the silhouette itself. Which is better, the Carrera GTS or the SL63? So I did mention that the designs are world apart. The reason behind that is because of the layout of the car. If you pop open the hood, you can see why. The SL63 definitely has its engine in the front. You can see why the nose is so long. You have that huge engine with a 585 horsepower smack in the front. However, it's a front engine midship layout that will add to how the car drives on the road. If you look over to the Porsche 911 Carrera GTS, it's actually quite fumbling because you don't have anything in the front. You actually have the engine way at the back. And that's why it drives like the 911 Carrera. So now I'm going to compare the trunks. The frunk and the trunk. I can't do the Mari trunk test because both of them are way too small. I can't fit in any of them. Maybe the Porsche frunk, but only half of a Mari will fit in it. And for the SL63, I don't think I can even fit one leg in it. So I will use my arms to show you how deep they are. For the Porsche frunk, I can fit almost one whole arm. So one luggage, small luggage might be able to fit in it. It's not much, but still it's a good size if you want to fit in groceries, luggage, bags, whatnot. And now moving over to the SL63, I was quite surprised because if you actually open it up, it's shallow. So up to my elbows. It is a little bit deeper inside, but you still have to have this top here. So the height of the trunk will limit you from actually putting in a lot of luggage or stuff that you want to put in your trunk. If you actually do need more space for luggage, there are second row passenger seats that you can make use of that are completely useless. You can actually use those seats to put in luggage. The 911 Carrera actually is quite deep if you have your seat position. Therefore, it feels that you get a lot of cover even if you take the top down. So the line of sight for me at the moment is quite clear because this line is above my head. I personally like this driver's steering wheel compared to the SL63 because that one is a bigger than this one, which is a bit more sleeker. However, because of the angle of the steering wheel, you can't really see the full gauges of the cockpit. So these 5 circles within the cockpit are kind of like a signature of a 911 GTS, but I can't see the last 2 circles because of the steering wheel. However, I do like this analog sensation of the overall steering wheel. I like that you have these screws inside, the overall, the knobs, how they feel, the touch. As for the center fascia, There have been a couple of changes. I do like the touch and the feeling of how these buttons operate and the tactical aspects of the buttons as well. As for the materials that have been used inside this particular model, for 911s and all Porsches, you actually go in and tick all of the boxes for whatever models, stitching, colors, materials that you want to use. I personally like leather compared to this suede-like materials, but I do like the mixture between either the leather or the suede-like materials with the carbon fiber materials. So as I mentioned, you have the Alcantara or the suede type of material, especially in the center part of the seats. They are quite comfortable and they have better grip on the upper part of the seats, which is quite typical for sports car bucket type seats. However, for the SL63, it's the other way around. They have more grip on the lower part, whereas this one has a better grip on the upper side of the seat. So now I'm in the second row of the 911. And mind you, this is actually set to my driver's position. And even with that driver's position, I have no leg room. Like, my knees are touching the back of this seat. The back seats are probably best suited for extra luggage, not adults, maybe children. There's not that much difference except for the seating position. A little bit more leg room compared to the 911. However, I feel like I'm sitting more upright. So it feels like someone's pushing me from behind. And so I kind of have to lean forward. Once again, no cup holder, and you'll have to actually put your luggage on top of the seats for the SL63 because you can't actually fold up the seats. As for the 911 Carrera, however, you can fold up the second row passenger seats. So there is a little bit of flexibility there if you want. This SL63 feels a little bit more crammed and a little bit higher up on the road compared to the 911 Carrera. The height of the windows is a bit narrower, and the bonnet itself here, it's actually more intrusive for the line of sight. So all in all, compared to the 911 Carrera, which had lower seat position, higher roof, this one has higher seat position and lower roof, so the window space is a little bit more narrower. Overseas, there's a lot of people who actually park their cars, convertible cars, with the top down. Then, in those cases, when you come back to your car, you'll have the entire inside of your car soaked up with all of the heat and the sun. So when you touch the inside of your car, it will be completely burning up. So let's think of that situation. So now I'm trying to close the top again. Let's try and do it. So I've turned on the symbol and I'm going to touch the panel to... Oh my gosh! Okay. I'm burning myself right now because the tablet itself is completely hot, but I have to keep my finger on the tablet in order to close the soft top. And now it's done. And it's not just one touch, but you actually have to keep your finger on the burning top. And in order to close the soft top completely, you have to burn yourself. Well, I think that Mercedes should have put in a little bit more thought into either cooling down the tablet or maybe having a one-touch, one-stop button. Compared to the 911 Carrera, which is also a button that you still have to pull on, it's actually plastic. So plastic doesn't absorb that much heat, whereas this one, it's actually a magnet for sunlight and the heat, and I almost burned myself. There's a complete difference in the aesthetics for the Mercedes and the Porsche as well. even for the interior design. You can completely see that this is much more of a louder design aesthetic. You see that there's a lot inside. And for the composition, you see that a lot more luxurious materials and fittings are inside the car compared to the 911 Carrera GTS. Starting with the steering wheel, it's a larger, more heftier grip compared to the sleeker Porsche, and there's a lot of knobs and controls even on the steering wheel itself. You have the paddle shifts on both sides, and you also have some control knobs on the back side as well. You also have the HVACs, 4 of them, kind of engines of airplanes. And the leather is all full leather, perforated. It has white stitching, and then you also have the orange stitching on the top part here. And then you have the chrome detail on the speaker parts as well as the HVACs. And then you have the high gloss black material with the chrome and the big screen tablet in the vertical mode. For me, it's all a little bit too much. That actually grabs too much of your attention while you have to focus more on driving and the road. At first glance, it feels like they have designed it so that they want it to be ergonomically designed. However, when you're actually controlling them, you can totally tell that it's not ergonomic at all. Starting off with the engine start-stop, it's actually located in a very weird position that it's very difficult to reach. Another part is where you place your smartphone, where you charge it. It's actually hidden inside. It's very difficult to reach inside and then to pull out again. And so that in itself is not ergonomic. And then for the steering wheel as well as the other control panels, it's all located in very weird positions that is not so ergonomic. There is a button where you can push, and then you can also slide in order to adjust the display because of maybe the glare of the sun. Not sideways, but just front and back. So for me, I personally would just have it fixated on one location, but maybe other drivers would like to have it propped up a little bit closer. The seat actually, maybe not for sports driving mode, but just for the comfort, having that extra support on the lower end of your back does provide a little bit of that comfort level. So one of the key characteristics of the 911 is that it's very sturdy on corners. It's like it has glue on all 4 wheels and tires. It's not only good on straights, but also very stable on cornerings. That's what makes it a good sports car. The handling is very responsive. It has good grip, and it can respond to any kind of road conditions whatsoever, and it's extremely responsive. To be honest, I would never drive a Porsche in normal mode. Because why would you actually buy a high-end sports car just to drive it in normal mode? So now we're on the road, and I've switched it to sports mode. And the good thing about this car is that you have 2 different levels, Sport and Sports Plus, and there's distinct changes in the 2 different levels. Again, the car is extremely responsive in anything that you ask it to do. But even with these kinds of sports car functions that I'm, doing, the mileage is actually quite good. Yesterday, when our team tested the car under high-speed cruising, it almost went up to 14 kilometers per liter. So actually a very highly efficient car. So a lot of people might just naturally think that sports cars have very rigid and strong suspensions. and that the suspension itself would probably equal to very uncomfortable rides. But that's not necessarily true. I have first-hand experience of riding an AMG that was a hatchback that had really rigid suspension. It was an amazing car to drive. It was really fun to drive. However, everyone who got into the back seat of my car or even the passenger seat was always like, oh my gosh, your car reads the road, like every single detail on the road, meaning that the suspension was very hard and rigid. You know, out with the conventions and the thought that it would definitely be even worse. Actually, it's not. It's very comfortable. And if you put it on normal mode, it's actually almost as comfortable as a sedan, a normal sedan. However, convertibles, you can't really dismiss the noise. It is, in fact, quite noisy, and I do have to scream. And you actually do hear and feel all of the vibrations and the sounds coming from the tires and the road. So that is maybe an added plus to the sound. The tricky part is having control of the car at the higher speed. I think Porsche does that the best. Tested and timed the 0 to 100, and it comes down to 3.0 seconds, 0 to 100. That's actually the timing of a Bugatti, of course, before. However, still, I mean, come on. How great is that? They say Porsches are the dream cars for many people. I think that this truly befits its title. It's the full package, and you have everything, the whole range that you could ever dream of. It's definitely worth the bang. So if you're looking for a dream car, then why not invest in it? So this one, once again, because of the long nose, maybe it's just me, I just feel a bit overwhelmed with the size of the car. And it's a bit hefty. Oh! And on the corners, I feel like it's veering off course. And on the straights, it's okay. It's the corners. Oh! It is definitely not a car for tight corners or hairpins or fast corners, for that matter. It's definitely a cruising car. So because this has a very long nose, we do need to be mindful of it. The Carrera feels so much more attached to the ground, whereas this one feels that it's slightly elevated and it's cruising and sliding on top of the ground. Both are very responsive in the drive, and both have great acceleration. I mean, no doubt about that. And this one has a lot of power behind it. As for the comfort level though, compared to the 911, I think they're both neck and neck in terms of comfort. This one has a little bit more cushion even compared to the 911. The car emits a lot of heat. A lot of the controls as well as the devices within the car also emit heat. We have the AC on at full blast, but you don't actually feel that it's getting cooler. Also, the seats have cooling seats, but it's not making much of a difference. So again, the two cars are really made for different targets of people. If you are a person who likes to cruise, to really enjoy the leisureful, high performance as well as a high-speed cruising life, this is the definite car for you. And if you want a little flamboyance, why not go for it? The SL63 is definitely your pick then. So what did you think about our comparison between the Mercedes SL63 and the Porsche 911 Carrera GTS? I personally would like to invest in a Porsche 911 Carrera GTS, but I'm sure that there will be a lot of you out there who would prefer the Mercedes. So with that, please tell us your comments down below and why you prefer which model. With that, I'll see you next time.